Hi, I'm Lauren O'Reilly. I'm a qualified pharmacist and your host of the Wellness Script podcast, your source of truth for all things health and wellness. Today's guest is Emma Dowling, the founder of Empowered Movement. She is a female fitness specialist and is all about research-backed approach to coaching and fitness to make sure that you are strong and empowered at every stage of life. Here is my conversation with Emma. Emma, welcome to the Wellness Script.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was a joy to come into town today to meet you.
It's great to have you. And I think just because we're at the start of the year now and everyone's thinking about their training, I'd love to get straight into talking about training goals, I suppose. And for someone who's listening who, maybe last year they were trying to get on, on a roll with training, with nutrition, if they're doing everything consistently, but nothing is changing for them, what could they be doing wrong?
I think the first biggest thing that we need to know is actually understand what our goals are. I think, having proper goal setting procedure and having that written down so that we can keep referring back to it because, life is so busy. And I think as well, there is so much information coming our way that our goals are switching and changing so much that we need to focus on what is our goal? What is it that I want to achieve? Is that weight loss? Is that getting my first pull-up? Is that having more energy and sleeping better and being more functionally stronger and fitter in my life? So having that goal at the forefront and keep referring back to it. And that's where I think coaching is really helpful. But a lot of the time, and I see this a lot with people, they're like, I'm doing everything right. I'm training consistently. I feel I'm eating well and nothing is changing. I'm not getting closer to that goal. So I think it's very subjective as well when we say eating well. So really getting an understanding of what we're actually doing because life is busy. And I do think that we kind of underestimate our bad habits and maybe overestimate our good habits. Yes. So ensuring that we are eating enough protein, that we are, eating enough calories from a day-to-day point of view, eating enough fiber, eating enough color, all of those kind of things. And a lot of the time, what I find with women is that they're actually under eating. They're not eating enough protein. They're not looking at the full, I suppose, macro balance of their nutrition choices. And that under eating can lead to compensatory eating at different times. Maybe that's in the evening when their kids go to bed. Maybe that's after a really stressful day in work. Maybe that's at the weekend when they've been so good Monday to Thursday. They're burnt out, they're depleted, and they're just ready to let their hair down, which is okay every now and again. But we need to, again, keep that goal at the forefront. What is it that I'm working towards? And how much of a priority do I want to make that? How important is that to me? And if it is important, we need to try and remember it as often as we can.
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's a lot in that you've touched on with, I suppose, the biggest thing being is it your goal? As in, is this something that you're seeing online? I think that's something that you touch on a lot in your content. Is it is this an attainable goal or, and with you, obviously you work with a lot of women in particular. What kind of goals do women generally have coming to you? And when they come to you with a goal, is it actually that goal or does it often change when you get into it?
This is the thing.
Yeah.
So, and this is where the goal setting procedure is really important. Really breaking down, what is your why? Why are you here? Have you hired me and my team to be your coaches? Yes. And really understanding the goal and also the sacrifices and the trade-offs that will need to be made to reach that goal and how important is it to you, like I just said. So a lot of the time, we have people that come to us generally with 3 different goals in mind. First one is weight loss. And a lot of the time they won't tell you that it's weight loss until a couple of weeks in. They'll say, I want to get stronger. Sometimes they're like, I don't want to lose weight, but then in time, then they're like, actually, I do want to lose weight. I think sometimes women are ashamed to say that I want to lose weight. It can be, you know, having more energy, creating just a little bit more space for them in their life, you know, doing something for themselves a couple of days a week with their training, and getting more energy and sleeping better. So really trying to improve their quality of life. And then we'd also get a lot of women coming to us with, you know, prolapse, postnatal, not injuries, but postnatal diastasis, all of these kind of things, and they don't know how to train. They're maybe a little bit afraid, and they've been told that they can't train. So we try and break down and simplify how to get back training in a way that is safe, that is progressive, and again is going to get them to their goal of being functionally fit, being able to live like a full and whole life. Because a lot of the time, those things, especially like prolapse and stuff like that, can be really life limiting and really affect women, you know, for a long, long time. So it's just amazing to see how training, how eating well, how, you know, working on our breath work, working on our stress management, that kind of 360 approach to our health and wellness, the difference that it can make to women's lives is just incredible. So they're generally the kind of goals that people would come to me with.
When it comes to nutrition nowadays, we're not just trying to avoid deficiencies, we're trying to optimize how we feel day to day. A lot of the people that I speak to are genuinely doing their best. They're eating well, exercising, getting decent sleep, but still feel like they don't quite have the energy, immune resilience, or overall balance that they would like. And that's one of the reasons I've partnered with Sona, Ireland's favourite vitamins, as the sponsor of today's podcast. They're an Irish family-run company with over 40 years experience, and everything they do is evidence-based, which really matters to me. With over 150 science-backed products, their range covers everything from immune and energy support to omega-3s, digestive health, bone and heart health, as well as pregnancy, fertility and children's vitamins, all manufactured, of course, to the highest manufacturing standards and repeatedly tested for purity and potency. You'll find Sona in local pharmacies, select health stores nationwide, or you can explore the full range at sona.ie. Okay, back to the episode.
Yeah, and Emma, you mentioned diastasis and prolapse there. What are those, just for anyone who has?
So diastasis, a lot of the time it would be referred to as abdominal separation.
Okay.
Even though it's called an abdominal separation, it's not actually a separation. Okay. So the rectus muscles in the front of our abdominals have like a sheath of fascia down through the middle of them called the linea alba.
Okay.
So this sheath basically thins and stretches in pregnancy to allow for our baby to grow, to allow for, you know, our organs and everything that's kind of happening in there. So it's a perfectly natural part of pregnancy.
Okay.
But just for some people post-pregnancy, it can maybe need a little bit of help to not close, but to function.
Okay. So it doesn't close?
It does close for a lot of people, but for some people it doesn't.
Okay.
But a lot of people focus on the width of the gap.
Okay.
So I'll have somebody message me and they're like, I've got like a 3-finger diastasis. Do you know, I'm really worried about it. But actually, what's really important is the function and the tension that can be generated within the gap.
Yes.
And that is what we really focus a lot on in our training, with our breath work, with, you know, using our pelvic floor through certain exercises and stuff like that to help build that tension through the diastasis.
Yes.
So like you can have, like I have a diastasis. I had really big twin babies. Lucy was 8 pounds, Willow was 7 pounds. Wow. So it was 15 pounds a baby, 2 big placentas. So lingering diastasis was kind of inevitable for me.
Yes.
But it's functional. You know, it took time, but I can do like my core work. I can do gymnastics movements. I can do all of that with the diastasis because I can manage the tension within it most of the time.
Okay.
Prolapse then. So prolapse is basically when any organs or tissues in the body kind of slip out of the position that they're meant to be in. Okay. The most common one that we would see in empowered movement is pelvic organ prolapse.
Okay.
So that's when the uterus, the bladder, or the rectum kind of move into or out of the vagina. Okay. So it can be really uncomfortable. It can be really frightening actually, because you're like, what is happening? And there can be a lot of pressure, there can be incontinence, all of this kind of thing. But I think working with a physio, working with, you know, a personal trainer like me who specializes in dealing with these issues, it can help it a lot. And thankfully, we've seen women like really, really improve their symptoms. Some of them have avoided surgery, but sometimes you do need surgery, and that's okay as well. I think there's a lot of shame around this and a lot of silence. After my first pregnancy, actually, I had a prolapse after having Jacob. And like, I had never heard of this. I was like, what is happening to my body? Couldn't find a women's health physio. I didn't even know they existed. This was about 8 years ago. And
which is not that long ago.
Not that long ago. And I come from a competitive lifting background. I was a competitive Olympic weightlifter. I loved lifting heavy weights, loved doing CrossFit, all of that. And I was like, can I do this? But I was so lucky that I found a great physio that helped me rehab it and got me back to where I wanted to be. But the information was so hard to get back then. And that was one of the big catalysts in me developing empowered movement, to be like, do you know, there is something there. It's, you know, available to anybody. And there is something that you can do. I think when things like that happen, we're like so focused on what we can't do. It's like, oh God, I can't lift weights. I can't go running. I can't do X, Y, and Z. It's bringing it back to focus on what we can do and progressively building on top of that. And it might be slow, but we can get you there, do you know? And I can definitely say for myself, even though I was super strong going into my pregnancy with Jacob, I think foundationally I'm a much stronger now because I can work with my breath. My core is like truly really strong, that deep core, my pelvic floor, all of that. So, do you know, there really is light at the end of the tunnel for anyone who is really stumped and really like, I just don't know what to do.
I totally agree with you around the stigma, and that's why I love your work and I love what you post. Like even recently I saw you working with a fabulous pregnant lady who was doing her workouts, and even just seeing that was so powerful to me. You know, 8 years ago you said there was stigma, there still definitely is, you know, and even as a pharmacist and in the pharmacy space, like I think there's always this kind of fear around pregnant women, like no one wants to touch them because, you know, we haven't tested this, or and that's, it's obviously important that there is evidence and research behind any whether it's medicine or whether it's exercise that you're working on with a woman who is pregnant. But I think the biggest step towards both preconception and through pregnancy and postpartum is to, you know, have that information available and have the right practitioners, because I think if you go to the wrong person, they might just, you know, say, well, just walk or just, you know, do really light movement. But to hear that is just...
Yeah, we're really lucky, Lauren, recently in especially the prenatal space, like a lot of research has come out in the last year or two, and it really kind of backs up the kind of message, I suppose, that people like me, people like Helen, the girl who was in that video, who's an amazing pelvic health physio, it backs up what we've been kind of preaching, you know, that, you know, getting strong in pregnancy, even if you haven't trained before, it is safe to start strength training in pregnancy once you have no contraindications.
You can start.
You can start. Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, a lot of the time the advice that's given is like, don't do something that you've never done.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, but do you know, the benefits of strength training for both the mother and the unborn baby is so huge.
Wow.
And obviously it's so easy for us as coaches to regress and progress movements. Do you know what I mean? Like we can really, just like if you had a beginner starting with you, you know, it's tailored, it's progressive. Obviously we're not, you know, throwing them onto an assault bike and getting them doing bench presses and pull-ups in their first session. But, you know, getting them, you know, squatting, getting them learning the hinging pattern, getting them doing some kind of push and pull movement is amazing because, you know, the actual load that we end up carrying in pregnancy is huge. It's such pressure on our skeletal system. Having more muscle can only benefit us, you know, through our pregnancy, through our delivery experience, and in particular through our postnatal recovery. When I think there's two sides of it. I think when people come to us who have trained in pregnancy, first of all, they haven't had that big amount of time out of training.
Okay.
So it's not as scary going back.
Yeah,
when you're
true.
feeling a bit more vulnerable in your body, it's like, oh God, I don't know. But
Yeah,
if
it's
you're
been like a year or whatever.
yeah. But if you've trained even a little bit throughout, it's not kind of as emotionally scary going into a gym.
Yes.
And then we have the muscle memory. Do you know, our body is like, I did this not that long ago, you know, I can do this. And we run a class in Bray just twice a week.
Okay.
It's actually the highlight of my week. I love it. Pre and postnatal classes.
Brilliant.
And the mums can bring their baby. We do their strength training. Some of them are pregnant in it as well.
Yeah.
I love it because it's kind of my opportunity to see other adults in the week because I mostly work from home. But it's connection. They're getting to see other moms. They're like-minded women, people who, you know, are on the same part of the journey as them. It's really, really powerful. When I had Jacob and I went back training, there was nowhere for me to train.
Wow.
I went from training in this electric, you know, incredible vibe of my weightlifting club to training in the CrossFit gym that I was working with in the afternoons when there was nobody there with this little baby with me. And it was just like such a loss of identity. It was really, really hard.
You're really going uphill at that point, you know, against the grain, against what you're used to.
Against the grain. So I was going against the grain with the stigma. It was like, you know, is this safe? Should she be doing this? I was, you know, missing my weightlifting team, the camaraderie, my friends, and I wasn't really sure what I was meant to be doing or not meant to be doing. So it was a lot of obstacles in the way, and it just made it really hard, you know, harder than it needed to be.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's just why it's just so important to just have that information available, go to the right people, go to the right classes, you know, like that's just incredible. And I think for women in general, like not just in pregnancy and postpartum, but just I think even strength training like was something that I was nervous about doing just as a young woman who was like interested in joining the gym, but like kind of like I'm not into, you know, building muscle. I don't want to be like it's so funny, like as if you're going to get loads of muscle overnight.
But people do think that.
Yeah.
They do think
and
that
if
only they knew how hard it was.
It's so hard to build muscle, you know. And if I hadn't, like my brother is a strength and conditioning coach. If he hadn't taken me through like what movements to do, I would have, I don't know if I would have probably stuck to the cardio machines and I wouldn't have lifted weights. So like, do you find that in your work? Like, are women kind of scared of weights or like?
I think when people come to me, they kind of know they're going to be lifting weights. Because I talk about it so much. But I definitely think, you know, I think we have still a bit of a hangover. Women my age, I'm going to be 40 next year. So I really feel women my age in particular, or around my age, we still have a hang up from toxic diet culture of the 90s and the noughties. That was like prime cardio, like, you know, and the fear, I suppose, of making our body bigger in any way was so huge.
Yeah.
And the messaging that we were bombarded with from all angles, I still think that is kind of lingering there, you know, and it makes me really nervous now because I do feel that the trend, I suppose, of being strong, not skinny is kind of changing a little bit at the moment. We're seeing it in celebrity culture. Yes. They're very, very thin on red carpets.
Yes.
They're like, people are just getting smaller. And we know that trickles down into our regular society.
Yeah.
And I feel I'm seeing it within my own community, and it's not like in a negative way, but it's just that we're talking about it, which is great. It's like, oh my God, are you guys noticing this? Or, you know, the pull to make our body smaller again is coming back. And I think the script is kind of flipped a little bit. And as somebody who is trying to encourage women on social media to get stronger and talk about the benefits of strength training, sometimes you do feel like you're talking to a brick wall. Sometimes, you know, it is a lot easier to sell a weight loss course, you know, than a longevity kind of product. But I suppose when I always kind of think when I get the people into the community, we can start to preach that message. We can get them strength training. We can talk about protein. We can talk about fiber and bone density and all of these things that is going to increase their health span, that is going to help them to live longer, more
Yes.
independent
Yeah.
lives, because the quest to make our bodies smaller, I think, could be really harmful to that in time.
Absolutely. I'm always saying that I'd love to be a really strong granny, you know, like
Yeah.
really like well able to lift and to do things, and you know, and I think that's kind of, it is a longevity kind of piece. But in kind of like a practical sense, Emma, like something that people probably ask you about is, you know, how often is it often enough to train, or like how long do I need to spend training if I do want to lift weights? Is like a 30-minute session a couple of times a week good enough? Or how do you know, if I do want to build muscle and I do want to be a stronger person, like how much is enough?
How much is
Yeah.
enough? So I think it all depends on where we're starting from.
Sure.
I think the biggest barrier for people is thinking, oh my goodness, like I don't have time to go to the gym 3 times a week for an hour, or, you know, and I think there's a real all or nothing mindset. It's like, if I can't do it every day, then what's the point in doing it at all?
Yeah.
But what we do in Empowered Movement, and what I do personally, because I actually do my own program, I think I am one of few personal trainers who actually does their own program because it is so good, and because I kind of built what I needed, I suppose, with my business, is we train 3 times a week for kind of 30 to 35 minutes. We incorporate our strength training, we incorporate our balance, we incorporate our pelvic floor exercises, we incorporate a little bit of cardio, you know, through different skipping, box jumps, all these kind of things. So I would say that's sufficient, especially for somebody just starting out. But if someone is really starting out, you know, doing 1 session a week could be a great place to start. And then when that starts to feel good and your body is recovering well, let's add another session in.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest barriers is thinking, I have to do all of this. And it's not possible.
No.
Especially when you're going from 0 to nothing.
Yes.
Especially when you're literally just thinking about trying to get up off the couch and get moving. Or, you know, after you've just had your baby or whatever it might be. Maybe you're suffering from perimenopause symptoms and you're, you know, like think you're kind of like, oh, I'm hearing I need to strength train. How do I begin? But I'm also, you know, have a busy life, busy job, busy kids. Maybe I'm caring for elderly parents. I don't have time to do this. So it's making it whatever somebody can consistently show up and do. And that is the biggest, that first question that you asked actually about, you know, I'm doing things consistently.
Yes.
We need to be doing things consistently, but we need to be doing things effectively as well.
True.
Going to the gym and doing the same session for, you know, months and years on end is not effective way of training. We need to have progressive overload. We need to, you know, switch up our workouts every couple of weeks. To keep our body guessing, but also so we're not getting completely bored of them and just going through the motions. We need to actually challenge ourselves within those workouts as well. Make sure that the last couple of reps are, you know, you can keep your form, but they are challenging. If they're not challenging, it's time to increase the weight a little bit.
Right.
So people could start with me and I'm like, just get like 3 or 4 kilo dumbbells. We'll start there. And, you know, a couple of months in, then they're, you know, lifting much heavier weights and doing more complex exercises, increasing the exercise difficulty, adding impact. We're always thinking about adding reps, adding time, like trying to just really slowly, progressively overload so that we get the strength adaptation that we need without injury. And also one of the biggest things for me, why I stepped away from CrossFit just over a year ago, is because like I neurologically just could not recover after training. I was too sleep deprived going in. I was probably underfueled. I just didn't have it in the tank to give to the session.
Right.
But my ego would make me give it to the session.
Yes.
And then like I'd get home to my kids. I'd be so tired. I'd feel like I just need to go to bed for the rest of the day. Your training needs to enhance your life, not drain the dregs out of the tank that you have. So that was it was really hard because I loved the gym that I was in. I loved the people that I trained with. I had some of the best coaches, but it just, at the phase of my life that I was in, it wasn't serving me.
Gotcha.
So it's understanding how you feel during the training and after the training.
Okay.
As well.
Tailoring what you're doing to your phase of life, to how your body's reacting to it. Like I remember one of your posts, it stuck in my head because, and I can't remember exactly, but it was something like no wonder you're exhausted, you're training like you're fighting a bear every day. I think it was something like that. And I was like, oh my God, yes. Like cortisol levels through the roof. Maybe going out, doing some crazy, like intense class, maybe no breakfast. I can just imagine the toll that would take, especially on someone who's already like up to 90, really busy career, really busy at home. Like that, I just thought that was so refreshing to hear.
Yeah, we see it a lot. And, you know, it's actually a huge obstacle that we face when women start training with us, because we're like, you need to do less.
Okay.
And they're like, no, this is meant to be torturous. Do you know, I thought that training, and I thought I was meant to be hungry and tired all the time. It's like, no. We need to peel this back a little bit. We need to give you more calories. We need to look at your macro breakdown. You know, if you want to do a class during the week, maybe instead of going to a high intensity class, could you go to like a Pilates class? Could you meet your friend for a walk or a hike or get out into nature? Or just, sometimes I think we need like another adult to come in and kind of, you know, mammy us a little bit and be like, look, let's just step back and look at this big picture.
Yes.
And the coaches that I've working for me, they're all mums, but they're all amazing at that.
Yeah.
They're all like women who, you know, train really hard themselves. They love training. They obviously love health and fitness, but they also have like busy jobs. They've like multiple kids, like, so they get it. And it is kind of like, sometimes I think, especially as mums, we kind of need to be mothered a little bit.
Yes.
And, you know, I've said that before, you know, if your child came to you and was like, I'm so tired, like I've no energy, you're not going to be like, right, hit class, let's go.
Let's do this.
Yeah. It's going
why
to
do we
be
do
like,
that to ourselves?
it's
We're
crazy.
Like,
It's absolutely crazy, do you know? So I think sometimes just even thinking like, if I was a small kid, if I was my younger self who came to me now and said, I'm really tired, like I'm really emotional, like I'm not feeling good in my body, do you know, I have pain in my body, whatever. Like, what would I tell them to do?
Yeah.
Let's go have a hot bath. Let's, you know, have a nice, nutritious meal. Let's maybe like meet up with some friends and, you know, go to bed early and maybe like reduce the screen time a little bit and reduce the stimulants a little bit and just try and like calm everything down a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's really, you know, it's kind of common sense, but
but
quite powerful. We don't do it to ourselves.
We don't do it to ourselves, and we would tell it to someone else. And if there was someone listening who, for whatever reason, maybe they're injured or maybe they're post C-section or maybe, you know, maybe for different reasons, they're in a season of life where they, even though, you know, 3 times 30 or 35 minutes a week is, you know, is a great place to start. Maybe they just feel like I can't get any exercise at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, is there, if you were to focus maybe solely on nutrition, do you think that you could achieve, I suppose, a level of health and well-being that is I suppose attainable? Like, do you think through nutrition alone is there a good way to feel really good in yourself?
Yeah.
And, you know, you hear about like gains are made in the kitchen, like whatever, about protein and stuff. But how much, I suppose, can we do by just focusing on what we eat?
I think a huge amount, to be honest. I think when you think like, okay, our 3 30-minute sessions a week, like that's a really small amount of our week.
Yeah.
So an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's all of the stuff that we're doing around it can be really beneficial. And one of those things that we can really focus on and control, I suppose, is what we're eating. So I have a very, very balanced approach to nutrition as well. I really think food is so much more than fuel. It's like joy, culture, connection, enjoyment, you know. So I think that's a really important thing to remember when we're talking about nutrition. But I do think, you know, getting enough protein in, just making sure, like, even if you don't want to get too complicated with the 1.2 to 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, get some protein on your plate in every single meal.
Okay.
Do you know? Make sure there's colour on your plate. Thinking about fibre, I always think like, how can I add one more good thing to this? Even if I'm making a sandwich, I'm like, is there anything else here that I can put into this, you know, that will just add another little bit of variety to it? Can I switch from like a white bread to a whole grain bread? Do you know, like these really simple things that we can do that can have such an impact on us, like, you know, on how we're fueling our bodies and our relationship with food as well. But it's also like if you're going out with your friends and it's, you know, enjoying a meal and, you know, having the dessert and enjoying that. I think that's really important.
Yeah. And I love that you said adding, you know, that you're adding this in. And then you're, I guess, and you said it at the start as well about like women in particular under fueling, and, you know, you're if you're looking at your actual dinner plate or your lunch plate or whatever it is, and you're adding in whole grains or you're adding in protein, then you are setting yourself up for success later, because you had a lovely full meal that's satiating, and like that you're really getting a lot out of. So
yes, I think as well, we're so obsessed with like making each meal as low calorie as possible.
True.
And it's like, okay, but like at the end of the day, like we need calories to function.
Yeah.
And if we're not giving them intentionally, there are going to become points in the day where we have crashes. And what are we going to go to in those moments of like when we're really hungry, our body is depleted, we're going to go to the most like highly satiating, palatable food that we can find, because we still have that hunter-gatherer mindset. So I think that instinct is just going to be very difficult for us to fight against. But if we're actually having 3 solid meals a day, our good breakfast, a good lunch, a good dinner, we're really setting ourselves up for success.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be complicated.
No.
It doesn't have to be. I think the nutrition space, I'm not a nutritionist, but I think it's very complicated and it's very confusing. Nutrition doesn't have to be really complicated,
Yeah.
I suppose actually a great tool that I would tell people who start with me, who want to kind of learn a bit more about what's in their food, if they want to go a bit further than just trying to add a little bit more, is use MyFitnessPal for 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
Not to take away anything or add anything in. Let's just see what's actually in what we're eating.
Yeah.
Like just getting that, oh my God, I'm eating like so little protein.
Yeah.
My fat is really high.
Yeah.
That's very often what will happen. My salt is really high, all of these kind of things. And without changing anything, it's like just as an educational tool, I think it's really helpful to see actually what we're putting into our bodies, but also the practice of actually mindfully, because we have to log in what we're eating. As I said at the start, we kind of underestimate our bad habits a lot of the time. We just forget because we're running around so like just in our crazy lives, just shoving things in just to keep us going. And we deserve more than that.
We do. And I think I love that you said that it brings that kind of awareness to the habits that you actually have, because I think that for me anyway, if I want to implement a new habit, or if I want to be healthier in some kind of way, or even just learn something new, I have to understand the why behind it, like personally, in order to actually, if you just tell me, or if someone just tells me, like I'll probably do it for 2-3 weeks, I'll probably try and up my protein. But if I don't actually know why, or if I don't, I'll probably just revert back to the same habits.
I know. And I love telling people within the community like the benefits of protein, because I think a lot of women are like, I don't want to get bulky. One of those like a whey protein supplement. No way. I don't want to be a bodybuilder. And it's like, I think those supplements are actually superfoods. I think they're amazing, because I do feel it's really hard to hit our protein targets without a supplement personally. But some people definitely manage it. But I like to supplement. I think it's a really easy way to do it. And I actually quite like protein supplements. Not everybody does. Controversial. But, the benefits of a high protein diet, with regards as well to getting more muscle on our bodies, it's all part of the same picture of that longevity. Do I want to live an independent, long life? These are the building blocks that you need to set now. I definitely think between the age for women of 35 and 45 is like a critical decade for us to lay down as much muscle and as much bone density as we can. Before our hormones start to kind of wreak a little bit of havoc, later on in our 40s, that we have, I always think of it like paying into a pension fund. I'm paying into my pension fund, getting my muscle mass up, getting my bone density as good as possible. So like the benefits of having muscle on our body go way beyond the kind of functional and structural benefits as well. So the more muscle we have in our body, the higher our metabolic rate is. So that basically means that a more muscular person actually burns more calories at rest than a person with less muscle on their body.
Oh, wow.
So from a weight loss point of view, it's actually really powerful tool, and it's something that a lot of people don't know. So strength training, even from a weight loss perspective, is so important. But also muscle basically acts like a sink in our body for glucose. So it helps us with our blood sugars. It helps us with our immune system. Strength training is also showing to have really amazing like cognitive effects when it comes to dementia and stuff like that. So I think like by adding in a practice of strength training, even just a small one, the benefits that we reap are so incredible. I think if like, the pharmacy world could put it into a pill, it would be like the number one seller or whatever. And we can do it so easily, in our daily life. So if someone doesn't have a strength training practice, and if they are in that critical decade of like 35 to 45, it's not too late, but it's time to get your shit together and start incorporating it in some way, and just know that your 70, 80, 90-year-old self will just be so thankful to you for doing that and laying down that habit. It's not something as well that you can do for like 6 or 8 weeks and be like, oh, my 80-year-old self will thank me. No, it needs to be consistent, long-term, building it as a habit into your day. And that's why I think, the home workouts that I do are so great, because it's not a huge upheaval in your day. I don't have time to get to a gym. I don't have those 2 hours a couple of times a week to commute, to train, to get home. But I do have 30 minutes where I can like train in my pajamas if I want to, and just know that the benefits of just doing that are so huge.
Emma, I love what you've said there about the kind of metabolic benefits of muscle gain. And I thought what was ringing in my head was that since I used to be in a very, very small body, and I used to like kind of faint almost or feel faint when I first started strength training, because I think I just didn't have enough muscle mass, or it was just a really huge effort for me. And since then I've probably gained about 10% more body weight, like since I started training, and I'm so much more hungry. So I'm guessing that kind of correlates to the fact that my muscles are working hard, kind of in relation to what you
definitely.
said. Yeah,
So your metabolism is increased, but also in order to gain muscle on our body, we need to fuel that. It's literally, we need to give it the building blocks for it to be able to grow that muscle tissue. So that's amazing.
So if I am hungry all the time, like is it that I probably proactively should be including more protein in my meals?
It all depends on your goal. So if your goal is to lose weight, then we would need to manage that. But we would need to manage, have you in a calorie deficit but still hitting your protein targets. But if your goal is to gain muscle, yes, like being in a calorie deficit is going to make that really difficult. So you need to make sure that you're eating enough, but it's all trial and error. Like I don't think there's one formula that's going to work for everybody. So anything that we do with our clients, any changes that we make, it's like, let's do this for 2 or 3 weeks, see how it goes, and then we'll tweak it from there. And that's, I think, a big part of what coaching actually is. It's tweaking along the way. It's actually working with the person and their body, rather than being like, well, this is how it's meant to go. So
okay, so if someone is, new year, they are starting to work with a coach, the way to kind of know if that coach is working for you or not, as it may be, like, it's kind of like if you feel like it is tailored to you and it is working with your goals specifically.
Yes.
I feel like sometimes people start a plan and they're like, this just like feels so hard and so like, so uphill.
Yeah. They need a coach really who really gets it and understands, the big picture, as we talked about earlier, and I think sometimes, not all really young coaches, but a lot of the time we'll have young coaches who don't really understand what it is to, have a family, all of the things, the mental load, the juggle, like it's actually crazy, and they think your health and your wellness needs to be your number one priority. That is not realistic for pretty much 100% of my clients. It is there to fit in with their life. But I do think that if you have a coach who's putting you on very low calories, red flag. If they're asking for before and after pictures for their marketing, red flag. I would just be a little bit wary of that.
Yeah, you're not gonna you're not aiming for quick results. It's not
it's a slow burn.
Is that BS? Like 6 week transformations and
Yeah, it kind of is, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll admit within my business, we do 8-week challenges, we do 12-week challenges, but the thing is as
That's
well,
a challenge.
a challenge. Yeah, exactly.
Different.
But,
yeah.
and I do try and give a very balanced message, I suppose, on social media. So I think people know that,
Yes.
we don't do quick transformations.
Exactly.
We don't do the short-term goals, but a lot of the time people like to work to a deadline as well.
Yes,
And,
yes.
it's kind of just trying to have different things that suit different people. So they really like the thought of like, okay, I'm going to do this 8-week challenge.
Yeah.
I start on this date and I finish on this date, and I'll, get a nice little consistent run. And I think there's a lot of benefits to that as well. But it's really about finding what works for you and in your life. And, having a coach that like gets it and that you build a relationship with, and a coach that you're not, worried about saying, when I do this exercise, I'm leaking, or it's really important that those lines of communication are open and that you feel safe and supported and heard, and again, just keep coming back to your goal.
And with those kind of 8 weeks, while it's a challenge, I'm sure it's to set up for future positive habits, as opposed to you do 6 weeks, you drop this much weight, and then you're going to be like you're going to just look great for summer. It's not about that. It's about, yes, in 8 weeks, I will understand how to move my body, or I'll understand, whatever, as you said, what the goal is at the start of it.
Yeah, we place a lot of emphasis on working with the menstrual cycle and learning like about your menstrual cycle, and not these guidelines that we read about in social media and stuff, but really learning to tune into your body, to see the big picture of your life and understand what is realistic for you, what you can actually incorporate that is going to effectively get you closer to that goal. Get you closer to that goal, doing as little as possible, really, because, sometimes I think we just think it needs to be this big, huge thing, and it doesn't. And the thought of it being this big, huge thing is actually what stops us in the end.
Yes.
And very often people get to the end of our challenges and they'll continue training with us in some way, because I just think we have a really wholesome and realistic approach, and we really get women. We understand the obstacles because we have those obstacles in our life. And it's about helping people overcome them and understand that the obstacles are coming.
Yes.
But we need to just find ways to work around it. And that might mean some weeks, you're not getting your 3 30-minute workouts in, but can you do 10 minutes? And just finding ways and supporting people and actually caring.
Yes, actually caring, like about the other people in your life, recognizing that, you might be able to help them, or, mind their child for a little while, or different ways that as a village we can kind of
come together.
Yeah.
And I think as well, it's empowering women to actually ask for help and be like, I'm really struggling. Like, I really need, some help with childcare. I really need, I'd be a great woman for outsourcing, as in like using my laundrette, getting a cleaner in once a month or whatever you can afford. Going to your friends and saying like, I need support. Like, it's hard. It's really hard having a family in 2025. I think we live very isolated lives in a way now. And unless we reach out and ask for help, we're not going to get it. Do you know why? Because all of the other people around us are in the same boat. We're all just milling along, kind of scrambling through, trying to do our best and keep our shit together, to be honest. Yeah. But, we're really lucky. With the groups that we move in between my son's school and stuff, that we try and share the load a little bit. So some of us, when another mum is doing the pickup today, we'll do the pickup on Friday. It's building the village, because the village is kind of gone. And you really have to try and find little ways to build your own village, but it's not going to happen if you do not ask, and it's hard to ask.
Yes, I think that is a really good point to wrap up our conversation on, Emma, is that, in 2026, be brave enough to, be vulnerable, I suppose, isn't it, to other people that are around you in your community, and say, listen, I'm kind of struggling. I struggle with the daily drop-offs or whatever, and can we help each other out here? And learn from each other, and join join a women's class if that's going to benefit you, and learn from other people, because we can't just do it alone.
We can't do it
No.
alone. We really can't.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes when we try, we just end up nearly digging ourselves into a hole, and it's really difficult to get out of that then. So it's kind of just having the support and the voice to know that it's okay to say, I just need some help.
Yeah, I love that, Emma. Thank you so much.
You're so
and
welcome.
if anybody's looking to find you, you are Empowered Movement.
Empowered
on
Movement, yeah.
Instagram, on your website. So yeah, Emma's content will surely help you get through the year and through your new goals. So yeah, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you for
us,
having
Emma.
me. I really enjoyed the chat.
Thank
you.
That's it for today's episode of The Wellness Script. If you enjoyed it, hit subscribe. It really helps us grow and keeps these evidence-based conversations coming with top experts to help you with your health and wellness. Follow us at Wellness Script Pod on Instagram and TikTok so you don't miss an episode or a live event. And a big thank you to Sona Vitamins, Ireland's longest established nutritional supplement producer, for supporting the show. Catch you next Wednesday with a brand new episode, your prescription for better living.